Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We got Hugo coming at 2 years here, and of course we'll be joined by Gabe Landeskog to have a fun interview that talks about his new documentary, well, the new episode of his documentary, A Clean Sheet, which is now complete, as well as some other things. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before that, though, the news of the weekend, I suppose. We've been off air for a couple of days, so stuff to get into today. Avs related. Ray Bennett officially hired by the New York Islanders, joining Patrick Waugh once again. He's talked about it. There's a lot of guys that kind of stick with their people when it comes to coaching staffs and stuff like that. So maybe not the biggest surprise in the world, but did you have any thoughts on that one, E, with Ray Bennett going to the island? I think you're muted, or something is wrong with my headphones.
Yes.
There we
go.
There we go.
Wake up. No, Ray, good for him. Good man, good hockey guy. As we all know, it didn't work out at the end. Something needed to be done, and let's not rehash all that stuff. But he had a long run there, and good on Patty, and that is a good match there. There was a lot of interest for Ray Bennett, just so people know. Multiple teams, reached out to him, and he's a winner. When you're a winner, part of a winning team, winning franchise, winning environment, people want that. So Patrick was a winner. He's been around winners. They know what winners look like, and good on Ray. He was a good soldier for the Avalanche for all those years, so it's great.
Done less winning as a coach, but Ray Bennett's won as a coach, assistant coach, so that counts for something,
exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, and Patty's got 4 cups, and that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not trying to knock that by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I know.
So that's the little bit of news in Avalanche lands. But of course, over the weekend, you did also see Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final get played. This Stanley Cup Final has been really goody. I know it's a rematch and all of that, and viewership's down, but the actual hockey in games 1 and 2, fantastic stuff.
Wow, you said I agree. It was awesome, and I'm so looking forward to tonight. I felt like it's been like 2 weeks. It's only been 2 days, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly, tonight. It's going to be an important one, as we all know. Series are even right now, 1-1, so that's always an important factor. Someone's getting ahead tonight. For Florida, this is their first home game of the finals. For Edmonton, this is their first, road game of the finals. So it's like they're important factors tonight. And sounds like, actually, good old Avalanche, AJ Greer is going to be in the lineup tonight. So, and then Nugent Hopkins, there was some question marks on him tonight for Edmonton. So hopefully that's not the case. They've lost Hyman now. So, hopefully you see some good hockey. And why wouldn't you? I mean, it's gone overtime both times, and it's been electric, and it's been physical, and it's been skilled, and it's been the best players dominating. It's been Sam Bennett. A lot of storylines going, so kind of exciting and good for the league. And like you said, I don't know about the ratings, but I'll be watching, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's, I think most years it's probably the 2 best teams in the finals, but I think it's pretty tough to argue through games 1 and 2 that any other team deserve to be here than these 2. And I don't know what it is about Brad Marchand versus teams located in Canada, but he just seems to have the magic against them.
How funny was that? Like, you knew he was scoring, right? I don't know what it is with this guy. And then you have his parents in the stands, and his mom was so excited, and that was cool. There's guys that's their DNA. They're just born with it. They live for those moments. Some guys crumble in those moments, and some guys just thrive, and this guy thrives. I mean, I saw a stat today. I think it was like, don't quote me like to the exact point. I think it was like 155 points in his career in the playoffs in 170 games. I mean, that's pretty
That's a lot.
absurd. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not McDavid. We're not talking about Connor McDavid. We're talking about a hard worker slash. Of course, he's got talent, but it's not an elite McDavid type player in this league. And so those stats are, that's heavy hockey over the years. That's digging deep. You're talking about so very effective. The Bruins get a first round pick now because of
Making the
all
final.
the
Yeah.
effects of the making the final stuff like that. So good on them. But then again, you're like, man, right? Why we keep that? You know what I mean? To keep our
Yeah.
culture, all that kind of stuff, right? So I know it's not that easy, but anyway, what a guy, and man, I've fallen in love with this Lundell guy. I know he's been around, and I know you guys like him, but you never until you
I
really watch him,
I did
you
not
know.
like him in his draft year, to be honest. I had
Oh,
issues
it's
with his
AJ. It's
skating and
AJ.
his
Like
foot
AJ.
speed that I didn't
Yeah.
like. But yeah, obviously
What?
he's proven me
Yeah.
wrong 10 times over in the
Oof.
NHL. So
What a player. You know what I mean? And I think even Marchand's like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. At first, he's probably thinking, I'm a top six guy. Then it's like, well, I'm not a bottom six guy. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, I'll play with that guy. Right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no problem.
yeah,
Right? You know what
yeah,
I mean? What a fit these guys have been with the big 27 there. What's it, Luceranen there?
yeah,
Wow, that's a good line.
Lucian, yeah.
That's a great line. And Barkov keeps doing what he does, and Bob keeps doing what he does, and obviously, what's his name? Forsland's been good, so that's a winning combo for them, and that's what they're based on. And so, yeah, Marchand, yeah, you got to tip your hat. I mean, to the little fella because he's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a stacked team. It's hard to argue with, Marchand very likely a Hall of Fame career when it's all said and done. And it's a couple other guys on that Florida team that are going to end up in the Hall too. Not that Edmonton doesn't have their fair share of those guys either, but
But just a quick note too, just because
yeah,
I was watching the game Friday night, and obviously it was a late one here in the East, but I was in the East Friday, and a couple BU kids were there, and and those kids all train in the summer. Like it's kind of like the DU pioneers, right? There's like there's a pro group that the former BU guy, just like DU, and they skate together and they work out there, and so those guys were saying like it's amazing to see Brad Marchand, in the gym in the summers.
sure.
They're saying they said he's a freak of nature, like he's an absolute pit bull in there. And again, you're talking a guy that's 5 foot what 8, you know what I mean, and he's the hardest working guy in there. He pushes everything, and the kids were saying, like the kids meaning the college kids, we're saying it's amazing to see it up close. You know what I mean? And then of course he scores the winner in second overtime, and he's got
Yeah,
probably the guy that's got the smallest tank when you think about it, because he is so small, and they're all laughing because they're like, he's such a bulldog and he works so hard, and no crap, he's the one that gets it. You know what I mean? So anyway, just a little side note. But
yeah. I mean, you have to be right when you're the
yeah,
1% of the 1% in the NHL. You have to have some of that. You'll hear more about that from Gabe Landeskog in just a little bit here.
yeah.
Before we jump into that, though, I did want to stick with the Cup final here a little bit. And I know you talked with Justin about this before the final started, E, but this final schedule, you see a lot more time off, especially in between travel. Both teams had 5 days off before the final started. You get the couple extra days as they go back to Florida here. Obviously, the Edmonton to Florida travel is extreme, one of the longest possible trips you could take in the NHL. But I guess after 2 games, are we giving credit to the NHL for adding some more time because we've seen 2 great games already? If they have a great game 3 tonight, is there something to this extra time off?
Well, it's funny you're asking. Like I was thinking the same thing, and I forgot to look at the schedule last year. I'm wondering if the last year was the same thing. I don't remember, so
I don't
I
think it was quite this strung out, but I think there was
as
some
much
extra
as much
time.
as I hate it as a fan, as much as I hate it as I want to keep playing, I think as a player you appreciate that. It's amazing what 24 hours can do. It's amazing what it can do to a body. So yeah, I think you appreciate it. And then again, at the end of the day, building availability and TV schedule will dictate,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, what's happening. And maybe it just kind of all fell in, all three things fell together where it makes sense for everything, building, TV and, rest, which is something that PA always asks for, you know what I mean? Because it's important, I mean, it's important.
Of course.
And again, it leads to quality hockey, like you said. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we shall see tonight. But I mean, you would think, but the series gets longer and longer and longer. Guys are going to get worn out a little more too. Still, you know what I mean? Like it's been a long 7 weeks, for those guys.
It's June 9th today, so
It's
we're coming up
a
on
long year.
2 months of playoffs for sure, let alone the rest of the season.
It's a long year.
Yeah, I do think this time of year is always interesting. You see these teams that are playing in the Cup final that it's some of the best hockey we've watched all season, right? I think everyone would agree if you watch games 1 and 2, the hockey there is great. But under the surface, even with the time off, both of those two teams are absolutely exhausted. It's emptying the tank truly, truly for the last time this season. And
you can tell, like, just jump in,
Sure.
like Florida, they've been there last 2 years in the finals. So now this is 3 years, right?
Yeah.
They've learned along the way that there is such a thing as overtraining. There is such a thing as not getting your rest. And I think they figured it out this year because I think they really, even out loud, said it. We don't care about finishing in home ice or whatever it is. As long as we're getting in, we're going to use the rest factor. We're going to, make sure not rush guys. And it's so important. And, obviously it's paying off for them. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, when you have the luxury to do it, when you're not in a race to get into the playoffs, not that it's ever tight, it's always tight. So you have to be careful with that, but it's playing a factor for them, you know what I mean? Because they've had 2 short summers in a row. They've had, again, the lengthy Edmonton, Florida final last year, 7 games. We all know about the partying in the summer. Forget about the short summer on days, meaning like, from the start of the training camp till the last game. But we all know that you're partying, and when I say partying, for all the reasons, you know what I mean, that's so happy and families, it drags a little longer than it usually does. And it really condenses your summer. So more power to them, and they probably have to adapt on the fly too this season, with a strength conditioning coach and, and kind of put everything together, try to figure out, like, because, during the season you maintain. During the summer you get ready, right? So maybe there was a little bit of mixture for them as they really had no time, for both teams. I mean, Edmonton too, but
obviously, like, the physical aspect of the recovery over the summer is the players, but when you look at the front offices and that those are the dudes that have incredibly short summers to me when you're playing in the Cup final. You go down to the mid-June is the end of the season, and then you immediately are jumping into the draft and free agency as the front office. And then, you get a little bit of time off in July, late July, August. But even then, if you win, you're doing your day with the Cup stuff. You're organizing all of that stuff. You have the parade. You have all the stuff. You're talking about what is for a team that misses the playoffs. You have like 3-4 months off. That's a lot of time to do your front office work and get some time off, go to the cabin, do all that stuff. Whereas a front office like Florida for 3 years straight now has had maybe like an 8 weeks of summer really in between seasons.
It's tough. Your brain never shuts off. And as we all know, think of what the Avs have done the last couple weeks or whatever. You know what I mean? And now you got to do that. These guys, while they're, the combine or whatever, and then you got to put things aside if you're Bill Zito, right? You can't be everywhere. The main focus is your team, and you have to have good staff. You have to rely on staff because there's no physical way. And mentally, how do you shut off like, oh, I'm going to go to the combine for a day, you know what I mean? And then, I'm going to go back to the game 1 tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's no way. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Your brain can't function that way. So you have to rely on your staff, and yeah, it just never stops for the front office. I always said planning is easy. You go home, by 12, you're home. You take a 3-hour nap. What a job. What a league.
Yep.
This is great. Front office, you got to work. Totally different.
That's where the hard workers are, in the front office.
Yeah.
You would know. We do need to take our first break here before we hear from Gabe Landeskog, so let's make sure we are hitting that break now, as we are presented by, and this Landeskog interview coming up is presented by Raising Cane's. Make sure you get with Raising Cane's. Heading out on your next summer road trip, you can pick up some Raising Cane's at raisingcanes.com or on the Cane's mobile app to satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap. At Raising Cane's, every chicken finger is hand battered and cooked to order. Every crinkle cut fry is crispy and perfectly salted, and every Texas toast is buttered to perfection. Of course, the best part is the Cane sauce, which is made in a restaurant every day, ready to be dipped in. You can pretty much slather me in the stuff, and I would be all about it. It's fantastic. You cannot go wrong with some chicken fingers and some Raising Cane's sauce. If you're hungry yet, get your order today at Cane's and keep the road trip going. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Excuse me. Once you've got your chicken fingers and you're enjoying life, make sure you also check out the Hall of Fame app. Look, we've all been there. Maybe you picked Brad Marchand to score the game winner, but your parlay came up a little bit short because you didn't have it in double overtime. You picked it in the first overtime. Something like that happens all the time where you miss that parlay by one little detail. And that's where the Hall of Fame app comes into play. This is not your buddy's group chat full of hot takes. It's a full analytics engine. The Hall of Fame app gives you access to advanced stats, historical data, and powerful tools to help you bet smarter. The app is built for the everyday sports fan, so it's easy and intuitive to use. You'll get an idea of your parlay's chances to hit and identify weak legs so you can weed them out before you place them. Whether it's the MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, or even college sports, the apps give you beautiful charts, clean visuals, and real insight, not hype. They believe anything the books know, you should know too. Because parlays don't have to be dumb bets, with the Hall of Fame app, they aren't. With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 5-star reviews, it's safe to say the Hall of Fame app has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, our listeners can get a 7-day free trial and then also get 50% off their first month when they use code DNVR at checkout. So download the Hall of Fame app today on iOS or Android and visit hofbets.com to enter code DNVR, and you're all set. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, we had the opportunity to talk with Gabe Landeskog about A Clean Sheet and the Fresh Tape Media documentary. If you have not watched it, the final episode just aired right before this went live, so go check out all 6 episodes. It's fantastic. We'll talk about it more on the other side. But we did get to talk to Landeskog himself about it, so let's hear what Landy had to say about this 3-year journey of getting back into the NHL. Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We've got Big E and Rudo as always, but we are joined by very special guests, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Gabe Landeskog. Gabe, first of all, thank you very much for being here. Thank you to Fresh Tape Media for an incredible documentary on your recovery. Cannot wait to watch the final episode here in a little bit. And congratulations to you on a comeback that I don't want to say was unlikely, but certainly in rarefied air for nearly 3 years off of the ice. Can you just talk a little bit about how that long of a rehab was difficult and how you persevered through it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Thank you for allowing me to come into your cozy little podcast room here. This is great. Yeah, where do I even begin, to be honest? I don't know. It's I knew that cup run in 22 put a beating on my knee, but I still thought, in the off season, a couple months, get some treatment, get some time off, start training, and then we thought maybe a smaller procedure was going to help it out, but it didn't. And then I was kind of staring down the barrel of kind of the inevitable of like, well, I can't get my knee to a good enough spot without doing this cartilage transplant, and figured out pretty early on that nobody had done it in our sport, and pretty limited amount of people that had done it in other sports as well. So, but what was I going to do? I was 29 at the time, kind of in my physical prime, except for one part of my body, right? And I just felt like, yeah, even if I lose a step, then so be it. I'm still a in my mind, a smart enough player to get around and make plays and be effective and contribute to the team. And I thought maybe a year and a half, maybe I could do it a little quicker. Yeah. But I realized pretty quickly on in the recovery, as you've seen throughout the show, that my mindset has to change. It has to change, and it has to get away from kind of the timeline and more into just realizing where you're at today and just almost like just accept it, live with it, do your best. And finally, once I kind of let go of all the timelines of I have to do this, I have to do that, then things started getting a little bit easier, I guess.
You talk about a procedure that has been, there may be 5 athletes ever that have really gotten this procedure and recovered from it. You're the first hockey player to do so. Was there ever any doubt that you were coming back? Was there ever a looking towards the rest of your life, or were you always making it back?
Oh, there was doubt. Yeah, I'd be lying to you if I told you there wasn't any doubt. There were days where I would just try to forget about hockey and think about what else can I do, what else do I want to do, what else interests me, what else this and that. And I'm lucky. I've got, my wife just gave birth to another baby girl here just 3 days ago, so now we got 3. But my 2 kids, Linnea and Luke, like if I didn't have them and Melissa and the support from my close family and friends, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest. And I think it just allowed me to stay present through those tough times and get through it with them, for sure.
Throughout the documentary, we've seen a couple of emotional moments for you, from not only the reception from fans at times during the opening night of this season, but also you've been a part of the team, you've been around the team as their captain, even off of the ice. How do you balance maybe pressure internally on yourself being the leader of this team versus all the support you got to come back for the Avalanche?
Yeah, I mean, I was thrown into a role all of a sudden now that you're the injured captain for years and years, and that starts shifting kind of your identity in a way, right? Like it's hard to go in the locker room or hang out around the guys and still feel like you're a part of it when you haven't been a part of it for so long. So I just kind of took it for what it was and just try to be a good teammate, try to be there for the guys. And I knew the day was going to come when I was going to get back in there, and then I could be myself and get back into that more comfortable role of being that captain and doing what I do. And it's not like I do things just because I'm a captain, but it's more just you feel more comfortable in that role. So I just kind of had to get used to that, and I had to just kind of come to terms with it. The support's been incredible from my teammates, from the organization, from day one, fan base, and like I said, my support system's been great.
This version of the Avs has kind of grown up with you. You've seen this era. You took on the captaincy very early, and obviously you guys reached the mountaintop in 2022. Is there more? Is there a want for that second Stanley Cup? How much of that want to win drove you to come back versus this is just what you do with your life?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt there's a want to win, and I would say it's probably stronger than ever. And that's not just for me, but that's for the rest of the guys in the room as well, where it's, you've been there once, and you just want to get back there. Yeah. Every season's a failure if you don't. And especially, we know what kind of team we have. We know the talent that we have on our team. We know what we're capable of. So, no doubt it's the hunger to come back. And I think that was a part of what was really hard throughout the process of coming back was I felt like we were just kind of missing chances and wasting time in a way, right? That summer of 22 and going into the fall of 22, we were just like, all right, let's do it again. Yeah. And then the team changes and you lose guys and guys get hurt, guys deal with stuff, and and now we're here again. We had a great opportunity this year, great team, and you're forced to just reset and get back on the horse. It's as simple as that. And yeah, you'd like to come up with all sorts of excuses, but there aren't any. Yeah. So we're looking forward to the challenge. I'm looking forward to an off season where I can continue to get better and look forward to training camp.
You were part of the Avs org once upon a time.
That's
here,
right.
yeah.
I wanted to say something like, well, congrats from all of us here. And
Thank you.
all of DNVR Avalanche fans, they love you. What's not to love? But congrats on the third baby,
Thank
right?
you.
So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you're talking about doubt. You talked about doubt. You were talking about doubt. Obviously, I was there, and I'm going to give you flowers. I don't like to, but I will. We knew, and this is the God's honest truth. We knew when we drafted you, before we drafted you, that you were going to be our captain. We knew that right away, and we knew that you were going to bring Lord Stanley home. You know what I mean? And there was never any doubt in our mind. There was never doubt in my mind. Now that you did it, now you're talking about doubt, and you talked about it. Of course, there was any doubt in those 3 years of trying to come back. What did you learn about yourself? You know what I mean? Knowing that, it's everyday life, but all of a sudden it's taken away, you know what I mean? And you learned a lot about your support system, but what did you learn about yourself in those 3 years?
First of all, thank you. Second of all, what did I learn about myself? I honestly believe if you would have told me before my surgery
Yeah.
that, hey, this is going to take everything you got for the next 2 years plus,
Yeah.
I would have told you, like, I don't think I got it,
Yeah.
But here I am, and obviously it was a bumpy road, but we got to where we wanted to get to, and now we have more work to do. So I'm not saying it's over, but it took just about everything I possibly had. And it was, you only see a snapshot of it in the documentary, but there were a lot of early morning, late nights, it's treatments, it's going to the pool. You go home, tuck your kids into bed, and then you go off to the pool because there's a 30-minute workout to do. And there's always just this, like, I need to do more. And there were times where I was running real low on belief.
Yeah.
And there were times where the last thing I wanted to do was to go to the gym or go skate or go to the pool or get treatment. And all I wanted to do was just crawl up on my couch and just watch the latest Netflix show. But I kept telling my wife, Melissa, all the time, I'm like, and I think I would tell her this, not to preach or to coach her, but it was more just to get my mind right. And I would say, you know what discipline is, right? She goes, no, what? I'd be like, it is when you do something that you really, really don't want to do. You still do it. So I just kept that in the back of my mind. And every time I stumbled upon something that I really didn't want to do, and, whether that's in the gym or on the ice, or I just kept reminding myself of that. And I think that's one of the things I've learned. It's just like the capabilities of the human mind and the human spirit, not losing belief. And it can waver, and there are times where you're not sure of what the future holds, or like, what is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Is this the right thing to do? But I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And the other aspect of it is I got 2 amazing kids, and now 3, obviously, but they've allowed me to stay grounded, and they've allowed me that when I come home from the gym, from the rink, whatever, I can disconnect and I can be dad. And that's sort of, I think you see some of that in a clean sheet, the balance of that. And it's saved me, really. It's been a huge, huge help for me.
They say there's no replacement for NHL game action. We saw you play in the AHL, produce a couple points down there. It took you till your second game back to produce at the NHL level. Is it like riding a bike, or was there an adjustment period?
No, there's definitely an adjustment period, but I think it helped me in a way that it was playoffs.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I kept telling people that, and I don't know if people wanted to believe me necessarily, but similar in 2022, I had a smaller procedure 6 weeks before the playoffs, and then came back for game 1, and it's the playoffs, so all excuses go out the window. I mean, it's just you just go play, and it doesn't matter what everybody's dealing with stuff, and it's that time of the year. So there's a small learning curve for sure, and there were times in my skates and the practices where I didn't look like I'd played hockey in 3 years, and then there were times where I felt like I still got it, So there was a little bit of both, but I think the competitor in you comes out. I think my mindset kind of helped me out and just not wanting to believe any of the excuses, and I think that helped.
To my eye, you looked great out there for the record.
Thank
Do you
you.
feel like you're playing the same way you were before?
I think we're scratching the surface to get there. I think there's more to my game, and I think there were certain parts of my game that I didn't quite get to, and a lot of it's going to need repetition, right? And time in practice and time in games, and I think we forget. There was, I did some morning skates here and there, but I didn't quite get the repetitions and in practice. I mean, I got that one full week before the playoffs, but other than that, you need reps and you need game situations to get you up to speed, and we'll get there. And now I get a whole off season to work on my game, which I'm excited about.
Game 2, you took warm-ups. Was there ever a chance you were playing in that game, or was that always the plan to just take a warm-up?
It was always the plan to take the warm-ups in that game. You know what? It was a mutual decision we came upon before kind of the playoffs started that, we don't forget, like, we didn't know what I was going to look like going into the playoffs. Like, it's easy to say now in hindsight that, we could have done this, could have done that, but we didn't. I mean, we had a great team, and the chemistry was looking good, and our lines were clicking, and so it just was a mutual decision we made. Hey, listen, we'll come out, and I kind of pushed to get out there in warm-ups in game 2. I didn't want, when my first game was coming, I didn't want to have to take that step that day, so it was nice to get that out of the way, and then, for game 3, I felt very comfortable, and obviously very special doing it at home, but there's so much that goes into that decision. It's, home ice versus not. At home you have treatment people, you have, your family, you have just less travel. It's just, the human body and my knee itself, it reacted in so many different ways with airplane travel, with not. It's just, there's so many things to take into consideration, and I think at the end of the day, I think we made the right decisions, and that's simple as that.
I know you've experienced some injuries and rehab, nothing quite like what Landy has gone through, but maybe you can speak to this a little bit too on how much it takes, obviously not just for yourself, but all of the surrounding cast that helps you through an injury.
Oh, but that's why I go back and looking at the beautiful clean sheet documentary with a fresh tape, but not the content is beautiful. It's crap. Like what you went through was crap, and you're right. That is hard. It takes everything out of you. And that's why I was asking him earlier, the doubt, because I'm being honest. Like, I don't think I would have been able to make it. And these guys know, Rudo knows. I had doubt. Like I said, I didn't have doubt you were going to bring the cup here. Well, I had doubts you were coming back. I said it too, and I told him, there's no way he's coming back from that. I know. I've been there. There's no way. So for me, I think it's fantastic. Like I said, not the content of the documentary.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the reason of the documentary, but well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well, and I think it's, honestly, to just touch on that, is I saw it as like this. I'm like, you know what? Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. Like, yes, I'm 29 years old. We just hoisted it, and and great. But I'm like, I feel like there's more. I feel like I can. I don't know. Like, let's at least give it my best shot. And I think that was my mindset the whole time. Was like, if I'm gonna do it, let's do it right. Let's do it. Give it my best shot. And I think you touched on it. It doesn't just affect the athlete himself. It affects everybody around him. And my wife, Melissa, shout out to her. She's a rock star and has dealt with me at my best and definitely my worst. And I wouldn't have been here without her.
Love it.
Great to see you back on the ice. I'm sure it's great for your side of it too. I can't wait for whatever's coming next season for you guys. Love the team you've built. If there's anyone you want to shout out before we get out of here, go ahead.
Well, I think I'd like to take the opportunity to do it. AJ Oscarson and the whole Fresh Tape crew. We're here to kind of celebrate the documentary in a way, and the final episode's coming out everybody here tonight. It's coming out for us, but everybody else tomorrow. And I think it just they believed in me from the get-go. They believed in the story. They've allowed me to be a part of it from a creative standpoint. And I think it's allowed us to tell the story to everybody out there. And I think that's so. I want to thank you, AJ. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, all of Fresh Tape. Appreciate it. And thank you to Avs Faithful.
If you haven't checked out A Clean Sheet yet, make sure you go do so right now. You can go get it on HBO Max as well as on Amazon and other locations. They are on TNT as well. So go check that out. Fresh Tape Media did a great job. Can't recommend it enough. An awesome snapshot into an incredible story of Gabe's recovery. So, Gabe, thank you again for coming on. We do really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
We are out of here for this interview. We'll have more from the DNVR podcast after this break.
Thank you again to Gabe and the Fresh Tape Media crew for having a super awesome event. But, you know, we're also presented by Raising Cane's on that interview. Shout out to them. And shout out to Empire Today. Just the same way Gabe had to build a good foundation for his comeback, you need good flooring in your home. And that's where Empire Today comes into play. You can get with them and use code DNVR to get $350 off your new floors. They only carry the best products out there, tile, hardwood, or carpet. They've got you covered. And they have professional installers. They give you tons of options. You can go online, use their tools there to see what the floor might look like in your space. You can get a free in-home estimate. They'll send someone out, show you what the floor might look like in your space. Of course, you can always go in store. Whatever it might be that best fits what you want to do, they've got you covered at Empire Today. So make sure you get with them, schedule that free in-home estimate because some things are just better at home. And again, you can get $350 off your new floors when you use code DNVR or head over to empiretoday.com/DNVR. That's a $350 discount. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for full details. Or, of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once you got your floors all sorted out, that usually means you're at the end of your day. Time to kick back, relax, choose chill with Coors Light. Jump in with Coors Light. The mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can to let you know it's ice cold and ready to drink. Maybe you're kicking back, watching the new episode of A Clean Sheet, and you got a Coors Light in your hand to enjoy it a little bit more. I've been talking about the warm summer weather a lot here in Colorado. Well, it's finally here. The rain is over. We can finally enjoy some grilling weather is the way I would put it. Our guy J-Mike was grilling out the other day. Coors Light in his hand. You know how it works. It's that easy. You can choose chill today with Coors Light, and the coolest part is you don't even have to get up off your couch to choose it. You can go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR today and get it delivered right to your front door, thanks to Instacart. If you're watching the Stanley Cup Final tonight, you don't have to get off your couch. CoorsLight.com/DNVR will give you your Coors Light right on your front door. Of course, if you are out and about, they're available in pretty much every liquor store in the country, so you can't go wrong there. Make the most of the times you choose chill and choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered. Again, CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Obviously, shout out Landy. Awesome interview. Great guy to talk to. A couple of things I wanna talk about with you, E, and we're gonna have some biases here, I imagine, but I want to put you on the spot a little bit, E.
Yep.
I'm not. Let me set the stage here a little bit because the question I'm about to ask you is a difficult one. And I'm not asking you who's the better player. That is clearly Joe Sakic is the better hockey player, as good as Gabe Landeskog is. Who's the better captain? Who's got the intangibles better in Avalanche history? Is it Joe Sakic or is it Gabe Landeskog?
Yeah, it is a difficult question, but I won't shy away from it. Like it's, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I don't think there's a right answer. I haven't seen both. Joe's the quiet type. What was his name back then? Quoteless Joe. You know, I think he didn't deserve that. You know, to be honest with you, he wasn't as bad, or he's not as bad as people think. He led by example. Joe was the hardest working guy at practice. I can tell you that, bar none. The hardest working guy off the ice of our squads back then in Colorado, bar none. ahead of his time. And when it came down to fitness and food and all that type of stuff, Joe took care of himself off the ice. Obviously, married to Deb and the kids, and he was in bed, and very important. His body, very very in tune with it. Knew what he was doing. Like I said, Joe was an elite athlete off the ice. Now, different type of room. Different type of leadership. Once I always say once they added the Lemieux and Waz and the supporting cast, to do the heavy lifting in the locker room. Joe, for me, a lot like Rob Blake, for example, non-confrontational guys. They not their forte. And again, I love Joe Sakic. For me, it's this is not a downgrade. I'm trying to compare. To answer your question, him and Gabe, their style of leadership. But Joe, never shied away from anything, always there and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of, wingmans with him to take care of some of the dirty stuff, Gabe, a little different. Gabe comes in, at 18, he's going to be your captain. A little different than Joe. Joe, you knew he was going to be the superstar. This guy is, forget about hockey. You just knew he was going to be your captain. And because he's got that presence, he's got that it factor. As we could see last night, he's got the gift of the mouth, right? Gab is the gift of gab, or whatever you call that expression. This guy can talk. And he likes it. You give him a microphone, he actually likes it. He'll kick back, cross the legs, and he can go. Joe's not like that. That's not Joe's forte. So that's probably where he got the quote list, Joe. But Gabe, very comfortable, very, very well. You would never know that's his second language. So very intelligent, very thoughtful in what he's about to say. And a brute on the ice, right? Compared to Joe. Joe, pure elegance, pure, Gabe is pure warrior, right? So I think, they're both left their marks as captains on this franchise. Absolutely. Which is a testament to them, right? Because they've, I don't know, what is it, 10 years now, Gabe? 11 years, 12? I don't remember. But, and it was the same thing for Joe, right? I think Joe holds the record probably for this franchise, right? Fair question, but totally different styles of approaching things. Learning more on the fly, for Landeskog, because none of them had ever won, where with Joe, they brought in guys that had won, the guys that I mentioned earlier, to help with that kind of stuff. So
Landy had a few. Berkey, it's
there was a couple guys,
Yeah.
but you're
not quite the
talking.
same.
No, you're talking about the heavy lifting, but good enough. And now they're all winners, right? So at the end of the day, they both ended up at the same place. After years of, the Nordiques, mediocrity, and then Joe gets it done with the Avs later, and then this Gabe's there was a lot of years there, as we know, that it was tough. It was a tough go, and then you win. So pretty cool.
I don't know that there's anyone more qualified than you to speak on both, having played with Joe and helped Gabe into the league essentially. So
yeah. That's
good. From my perspective. It's hard for me not to say Gabe was the better when it comes to the captainy type things, and
sure.
This is obviously my bias since I've covered the Colorado Avalanche in a professional capacity. It's been Gabe Landeskog as the captain. He's the guy who's always standing in front of that camera. And more than anything, I think that's a big part of what the Avs have missed. A guy that will do all of those things, both on and off the ice for, look, I love Nathan MacKinnon. I love him as a hockey player. He's not the best interview in the world. It's not what he's good at. And that's where a guy like Gabe comes in and does those interviews and lets Nathan MacKinnon be Nathan MacKinnon, right?
Yeah. It's a gift.
So,
I said it. It's a gift. I mean
yep.
it really is a gift. And I'm glad he's, with the documentary and, with all the good that they're doing with it. You want to, use that, use your
Yep.
gift, and spread the word a little bit on what's it like. What's it like to struggle mentally? What's it like to go through things like that? So it's pretty cool,
I
the way they
think,
did it.
yeah, my favorite part, I'm not one specific part of the documentary, but my favorite thing that the documentary did is anytime we have fans come in to talk to players with us, or anytime someone's like, oh man, I'm so nervous to meet this player, I always tell them the same thing. They're just people too. And you
Yeah.
watch the Clean Sheet documentary, and there's all these moments of Gabe Landeskog like in his home, playing with his kids, or having his own emotional struggles like a normal human being would have. I think the documentary did a great job of really showing the human side of a professional athlete that often gets put on a pedestal, and people forget sometimes that there's an actual human being there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's where Fresh Tape did an unbelievable job capturing that. And I think that's what Gabe wanted. And I think that's what they wanted. So there was a marriage there. I think they were on the same page, and you can tell they were on the same page. But yeah, guys like Gabe, they know it. They know that they're not that special, meaning, like, you know what I mean? They're put on a pedestal because of the platform they're on. But at the end of the day, they're just normal, average Joes, with their families, and their dad, being a dad and being a husband, and by the way, what a beautiful family. I mean, holy cow.
Gabe might not be so normal in the looks category.
Yeah,
He might have a leg up there.
What a beautiful family. So proud of him, and it's funny. Now he's got 3 kids, and awesome. So I mean, nothing short of spectacular. His career, his leadership, and then obviously with the help of Fresh Tape, the what they're trying to portray. I mean, the documentary. I think they nailed it. So
And,
kudos all.
let me be hypocritical Rudo for a second here, because yes, he's just a human being. He's just another person. If you get the chance to talk to him, I cannot recommend it enough. But you talked about it in the interview. It takes a special person to come back from what he came back from. That is one of the longest injury recoveries in NHL history. It's the pure focus just to be able to stick to it, to get to where he got to. He deserves all the credit in the world.
Oh yeah, and as we know, I'm a one-trick pony, but you hear the late Kobe Bryant and the GOAT Tom Brady, and they always talk about, like, Kobe Bryant, like those days in the gym, those days you're suffering, and it's so hard, and you think that you got nothing left. That's what's going to help you in a game, you know what I mean? And that's how you just go about your games and your wins, and it's through the agony of defeat, through the agony of the gym, through the agony of pain that your body endures. And then I think you have to multiply that by 10, where Gabe was at, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't know where you dig. I don't know where he had to dig. It had to be real deep. As you saw, like I told him, like, I wouldn't have been able to do it. No chance. It takes a special character to get through that. Most people, and I mean that, and I'm saying most people in the NHL wouldn't have made it to where he got back to it. Again, like you said, the road is just starting. It's not over, but you have to get there, and he certainly did. And that's where it's amazing, because it's a special type of human being, special type of athlete that can do what he did. And it's not just like, oh yeah, he overcame a knee injury. Wow, what a documentary, No, that's not how it is. It's absolutely unreal what he had to go through, and the level of digging he had to get to keep himself mentally challenged to, answer the bell and get to where he wanted to be, and where the whole Avs nation wanted him to be. So pretty crazy.
All right. Let me lead my witness here on my next question a little bit by throwing some statistics at you. Gabe Landeskog, in his career, 571 points in 738 regular season games. That puts him top 5 in all-time games played in the Colorado Avalanche jersey, and I believe it is 6th all-time in points in an Avalanche jersey. You swap over to the playoffs, Landeskog, again, top 10 in all categories. 74 games played, 71 points, an absolute playoff monster for the Avs. Puts him in the top 10 in both of those categories all time with the Avalanche too. And all of that includes the fact that he hasn't really played in the last 3 years. So, let me ask you this. Do we even have to have a conversation about his number getting retired in Ball Arena, or the day he hangs it up, is that jersey going up there?
Oh, for me, it goes up there. You're talking about leaving a mark on a franchise from start to finish, as a teenager to as what we just witnessed, the comeback, to the captaincy, to the numbers you just showed me and showed all of us here, and the fact that he's a winner. It's a no-brainer for me. No-brainer. This number goes up there. Well-deserved. And I think that, and all the reasons too that he stayed here, free agency and all that kind of stuff, right? He decided to stay here. So the loyalty, yeah. I mean, the number 92 should never be worn by anybody else but Gabe Landeskog. It would be an atrocious decision, Not that I'm in charge, but I'll say it right here, right now. That's it. It's done. It's going up there. So.
It would keep the tradition alive. When Landeskog's number does get retired, every permanent Avalanche captain will have had their number retired in Colorado. So I do think that's a pretty cool thing that Landy will likely keep going. I want to expand on this conversation, though, E.
Yep.
What would it take for Landy to have a real Hall of Fame case here? Because especially with the time he missed, the statistical numbers are going to be hard for him to maybe reach the numbers you need to usually make the Hall of Fame. But there are plenty of times in the Hall of Fame where you pull out the character clause and you say, Landy's a great guy. He made this recovery to come back and play in the NHL again. Do those things help him in a Hall of Fame case, or do you think he's likely to end up short of that?
Well, it has to help him, especially what he just did, and especially the story's not ending, right? It's not over.
Yeah, it's not over.
So, yeah, and like you said, we'll see how the numbers go, after this season, obviously, and next season, and hopefully it's years to come. I think internationally as well, he does have some hardware internationally. That always helps too with the Hall of Fame. Not too sure what he's got internationally, but I do believe he's, World Championships. At least I think he's won that. Not that it matters
Twice.
a lot of it. Yeah,
and
exactly.
a silver at the Olympics as well.
So silver at the Olympics. Again, played Canadian hockey in Kitchener. So very well diverse in those types of deals. A European captain in the National Hockey League. There hasn't been that many. And very again, what are his stats right now? Like point wise?
571 points in 738 games. I can't do that math with my head. Let me look.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's it's a little short, a little bit behind. But over the years, you've seen it. You've seen it with guys that have impacted the game. And but for me, God, it's gonna sound so corny, cliche, but he's a Hall of Fame person. And it's like, and again, he's left, and it's not over. His mark on the Colorado Avalanche, a franchise in the NHL that's been about winning for so many years too. So yeah, Hall of Fame person in my book. Now, does he reach the Hall of Fame? Time will tell here.
Fair enough. I'll leave it at that on that category at the very least. Look, I think especially this last season, a lot of people realized just how much the Avs missed Gabe Landeskog. And both on the ice, both off the ice, with the whole picture when it comes to the Colorado Avalanche, the reality is this era would not be what it is without Gabe. You talk about, hey, he stayed in free agency. He also stayed after one of the worst seasons in NHL history. He didn't ask for a trade out. He also took over this team at what was at the time the youngest captain in NHL history until McDavid took it away a couple of years later. So the modern version of the Colorado Avalanche are so intertwined with Gabe Landeskog that they're inseparable, right? In many ways, as Gabe goes, the Avs go. Yes. Is he the best player on the team? No. He's third banana, maybe fourth banana, maybe fifth banana on some nights, but he's also the emotional center of the Avs 2.0.
Absolutely. And always remember what I talk about a lot. It's the chemistry, the culture of the room. People think it's not important. It is. It is so important. And you need glue guys, and he's certainly one of them because he makes it tick. He makes it go around. Just look at the way he took over the bar, the DNVR bar yesterday. I'm sorry, it's natural. You could put a lot of people with a microphone there, and he wouldn't have turned or transformed that room into what it was, because it takes a special. And it's the same thing in a locker room. It's a team sport, and that guy gets it. It is a team sport. It's never about him. It's about everybody else. And you have a conversation with him. There's not many people in life that make you feel that way. You feel empowered after because he gave you the time of day. You felt he wasn't rushed. You felt that he was genuinely asking about your life, your whatever, you know what I mean? And he was interested. It's not just, hey, what's up? And you don't listen, you know what I mean? So it's genuine. He empowers you. And I think that's important in a team environment like hockey. So very, very underrated part or sometimes overlooked, the chemistry of the locker room. And yes, in those 3 years, I don't care what people say, he has been missed in that sense, and you can tell. And you can't just, when somebody gets injured, you're always like, oh, we can't replace player X. It's the same thing. You can't replace that. But he's been around. Yeah, sure. We've heard Jared say that, of course. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he wasn't around. Now he's around. You know what I mean? You can make it look like he was. And of course, he was here and there, but it's not the same thing. Now it's back, and his presence is going to matter, and it's going to make a big difference here coming up this upcoming season.
Outside of lifting the Stanley Cup, do you have a favorite moment from Landy's career?
I remember his first goal, Chicago, I believe, in Chicago, if my memory serves me well. You could tell because what I'm trying to say is it happens, and of course you're happy for the player because you've been dreaming since you were a little kid about this, and then a lot of times your parents are I don't remember if his parents were, I don't remember, I don't believe so. It wasn't his first game, and
yeah. But
I remember the reaction of all the teammates, and you could tell right away. You're like, okay, that's not normal. You know what I mean? Hold on, I've seen first goals, and people aren't that excited. You know what I mean? And it was like everybody was pumped, and it's like, okay, you can tell he's commanding respect right away. And then so for me, besides obviously hoisting the cup and just that moment right there, just to see everyone around and everyone after the game and on the bus and on the plane, all right, the kid got it. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, and it was special. So maybe that's one of my moments for me. Love it.
There's been a lot. Landy's had a lot. The skate save in the cup final, the Landeskogging with his flu game. One of my personal favorites, though. I forget who he was talking to in the penalty box that he told to go back on waivers. That one always tickles my fancy. But look, when you can talk like him, you can talk a little bit of smack too. I'll put it to you that way. He's got it all. He's got the whole package. I'm super excited, super duper excited for Landy to be back next year, and we get to see one of the best players in Avalanche history. Certainly in rarefied air with not only a captain but a championship captain here in Colorado. So super awesome. Again, I wanted to shout out Fresh Tape Media. Go check out A Clean Sheet if you haven't. The documentary was super good. I couldn't recommend it enough. And thank you to those guys for screening it at the DNVR bar. We also did a long Q&A with Gabe Landeskog at the bar that should be up on our YouTube channel either shortly or maybe it already is. Go check that out. If you want to experience a little bit of the charisma that Landy has, that Q&A, he had the whole bar eaten out of the palm of his hand. I'll put it to you that way. So go check that out. Any final thoughts on Landy or the documentary?
No, but go watch that. You said Q&A because there's a story he tells about one of his teammates in there and his youngest son emulating that. It's awesome. Yeah. I kept thinking about that today. I'm like, oh, again, he's got the gift. He knows he can tell stories. So very, very, very exciting. And go watch it because it's pretty cool.
Did either of you have a favorite cameo in the docuseries? I actually kind of really enjoyed Steven Stamkos. I don't know. He was like really cool about Landy. It was cool.
Does it really count if I say the producer AJ's cameos were the funniest part? Because he's basically
those were
just
perfect.
A babysitter for Landy while they were recording the whole show.
Yeah, that's good. And then for me, all the kids I thought it was a huge component. The kids were funny, not that just to watch the bits and pieces and the way they talk and interact with their mom and dad was awesome.
When the little one called Gabe Landy, you don't call me that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's poignant.
Congrats to Gabe on his third child as well, which just came past weekend. So he's living the life. Not a whole lot of sleep right now, though, I bet. So good luck.
Good luck with that, son.
We are going to get out of here for the day. We appreciate everyone hanging out, watching this one. Again, go check out the Gabe Q&A. Super cool stuff. That's it, though. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.